I just had a long impregnated pause there because I was thinking, and I'm kind of torn on that. I don't really let mine rest. I push them pretty hard, but I also factor into the wintertime resting periods based on that. I
Mhm.
will grow in my garden throughout every season, but I will put in quicker crops into beds that I want to let rest versus other crops, longer crops at beds that don't really need to rest. So in between spring and summer, I'm not convinced that they really need to rest that much. But if you don't let them rest, I would say you need to be amending your beds and you need to be adding pre planting fertilizers at minimum. And if you're harvesting your spring crop, something that I do is I will put in fertilizer weeks before I go out because I use an organic granular. It takes time for it to break down and start activating. So by the time I'm harvesting, I'm still that fertilizer starting to kick in.
Yeah, I think it's all vegetables clearly aren't created equal to
Yeah.
the point of every vegetable, everything you have planted is not going to work your garden as much as the next, right? So we think about as we head into summer and some of these crops are heavy feeders. That's very different than resting between, let's say, summer and fall potentially. So the same concept would be true if you're saying, "Oh, consider resting between spring and summer." I'd make more of an argument between resting between summer and fall, and we oftentimes don't do that because now we're on a clock. So when I think about the leafy greens back to spring, when I think about some of the brassicas, which there's some nutrition that's being pulled out of the soil, I feel like, to be quite frank, a lot of the spring things are almost appetizers for the great meal of summer. I'm a little bit biased because most of my experience over the years has been with a summer garden. So that still is like the big show for me, and in spring would again be the opening act of sorts. Maybe fall can be an encore. You see what I did there?
I did. I saw it. Um, for me, it's almost the opposite because
Mm.
the heat of the summer brings a lot of struggle.
Hmm.
So I look at, I kind of look at them all equally. I would say fall is definitely the encore. You're kind of like, you're lucky, especially for us, the way our heat can drag on, we're kind of
Hmm.
lucky if it works. But, um, going into it, you mentioned something about nutrients. Um, it's really important before you go in and you think about like, okay, what's going in this bed next, that you
Hmm.
try not to put competing nutrient needed plants in there. I don't know if I said that right.
Hmm.
It sounded good in my head, but not when it came out. But what I mean is if you have like most of what we grow, except for your root crops, are high nitrogen feeders. You don't want to put a high nitrogen feeder in behind it because that will delay. And this isn't really a planting guide, but this is part of knowing when to put it in, because when you get those plants out, and the subject of bed resting is if you have a high nitrogen plant going in behind a feeding high nitrogen plant, then you've got to kind of really amp up the nitrogen in it. Luckily speaking, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head necessarily that is a specific summer plant that is a high nitrogen feeder. Can you think of one, Batavia?
No.
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff that will hold over like chard or
Well,
something like that,
technically, beans do require nitrogen.
but they're not a high nitrogen feeder.
Uh, okay. I mean, I think that,
I mean,
so the requirement of it versus something compared to what in spring, compared to like broccoli,
cabbage,
which has to put
broccoli,
on the floor,
lettuce.
like the actual head,
Yeah,
that requires a lot of work. And
because nitrogen
yeah,
makes leaves. So, in the summertime, we're not really consuming leaves that much.
we're not consuming them, but it does tie into the health of a plant, not to the extent of it's primarily the thing that we're consuming. So I'll go ahead. No, but then what about beans? I'll stand by that.
Well, I will say this. I have in the past, in the summertime, I remember one year, I was like, I'm going to have the biggest and most beautiful squash plants you've ever had in your whole entire life. and I went through and I gave them some serious nitrogen, and I got the biggest and beautiful squash plants,
Uh-huh.
but not the squash. And I remember I went back to the drawing board afterwards. I scratched my head. I was like, man, they're so good. And I didn't really have a lot of issues, but I didn't get anything. And it was because of the high nitrogen. So, yeah. So, luckily, it's kind of almost built into the DNA of the garden to help, as long as we stay within the season. Now, if you live
Hmm.
somewhere like Chicago, where you can plant some of these spring crops well into the summer, that's going to be a different story
Hmm.
for you. So,
Well, yeah, but it also, so I do in Chicago keep some of my spring crops into the garden way into the summer. That includes your brassica family, that includes your kale, collards, absolutely. It includes your cabbage. I'm harvesting cabbage in some cases in July that was planted in the spring. So, and depending on how mild the spring or the summer was, it could even be like at the beginning of August. So I say that to say I absolutely do it, but there is a slight question mark around just because you can. Is the garden really designed for you too? Right. So you think about those beds and there's still something that those crops need from those spaces. When I have a cabbage plant kind of sitting, right? When I have a kale plant kind of still there, maybe not in the most prime growth area because again the heat does slow things down. Am I better off? Am I doing better for the soil for the bed if I have something again that I can refresh that area with and start anew, if you will? I don't know.
if
I'm
I
not
could
giving it.
if I could grow broccoli year into the summer, I would.
Yeah, I
So,
can't.
yeah, I can't.
I
I
haven't
mean,
found a variety that allows me to. Let me say it that way.
it's just not possible here. But what I'm saying is, if I could, I would
Sure.
absolutely view that as like a summer plant. But what we're referring to here, to be very, very clear, are like your tomatoes, squash, corn, all that. Corn is a high nitrogen feeder. There it is. Whew. Okay, there, we got it out of the way. Man, that was stressful. So yeah, you go through it, and there's specific crops, but letting your bed rest, I don't think is super important because we should be building it up to that. We should have let it do it somewhat over the winter, and then re-amending afterwards. So I don't think that's as much of an issue. What we really need to worry about, and the elephant in the room, are temperatures. And I said we weren't going to talk about weather, but we're going to talk a little bit about weather, just kind of eyeballing it and figuring it out because um, the eagerness can be a real issue when it comes down to it. And it's like Batavia said, 38 degrees is not freezing, but it is dang close to freezing. And it can be an issue, but some stuff it doesn't have to be an issue. So,
But my argument always, and I've never been able to do it, what I believe is an adequate garden experiment. Excuse me. It's you put a tomato plant in the ground at 38 degrees Fahrenheit because it's past your average last frost date. Sure, the tomato plant may not die, but did you stunt it? And then more importantly, even if you didn't stunt it, are you just buying yourself a little bit of maybe less pressure when it comes to your schedule? Because my theory is if you plant, let's say on April the 21st, which is past my average last frost date, a tomato plant, and then I plant one, I'm willing to say even May 21st, do they eventually catch up to each other? Because technically we're past, a month past our average last frost date before the weather really heats up, before those plants can really thrive, right? Like there's almost even a level of dormancy, I think, for those plants when they've been planted early in not so ideal conditions.
I think it comes down to the amount of shock. So over the years, I've kind of gone back and forth about it a little bit. Um,
Mm.
Typically, what I do, I say typically because things are different this year, which we'll get into. I wait until about a week after my last frost date. Um, usually in April we get one, and it's been like the day of the last frost. We'll get one solid frost, and then we kind of you come out of it. Well, this year it's been a little bit different. We haven't had a frost in about a month, and I've been sitting idle, waiting, and waiting for it to see like what's happening, what's going on. And we're coming up like I now in my forecast, what is that? Is
The
that
past weather.
timeanddate.com?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Shout out to timeanddate.com. Um, so that last frost date is now in my forecast, and it is outside of my, or it's not in the extended forecast, it's in the near term forecast. And so what I'm seeing is like we're not going to get it, so we're going to go ahead and plant a little bit early. But for instance, tonight at the time of recording this, it's going to be 38 degrees. So what am I going to do, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've made up my mind. I don't think I'm going to do anything. Everything is sitting outside, and I think I'm going to roll the dice a little bit. I may throw a towel over them to give them a little bit
See,
of insulation, but I've kind of gotten to the point where it's like I can't carry 8 trays of plants in and out anymore. I'm physically, mentally done.
yeah, about a week before our average last frost date, we had temps that got down into like 26 degrees Fahrenheit. And not talking about summer plants at all, but it's the things that I have that I've hardened off that I haven't planted yet, that I had to make the decision of, all right, these things are cold hardy, but it's 26 for these small plants that haven't had a chance to get acclimated in the soil. Is that too much? I decided not to take the risk, and I hauled the things into the garage and provided a little bit of cover. Again, the garage is not heated. So, I mean, it's only going to add so much warmth to it. So there's that. But I want to talk about the temperature from a, we're always talking about how cold is it. I'm also talking about how warm it is. So it again ties back to maybe it won't do harm necessarily, but how much are you really gaining, right? So as I was looking at timeanddate.com for the past weather, April of 2024, so last year, I had the very last week of April in Chicago, temps that got as low as, 35, 36 degrees. Sure, there were some 70-degree days, and those are the days that you thrive in. But again, what's the consistency of that weather, right? So if I had 2, 3 weeks of 60, 70 degrees, get out there and put those tomato plants out there. They're going to really take off when I get to 80, but they'll be just fine at 70, at 60. They'll likely be fine at 50, but I'm not getting that much of a return on this early planting at 40 degrees, is my point. So are you then able to allow your spring plants a little bit more time, and enjoy those? I don't know. I mean, this all depends on your garden. Young Ben has already pulled a lot of his spring plants out because, in part, he had to. Remember, I talked about being able to allow some of these things to continue to grow, although they were planted in the spring because of my weather and my climate. So,
Yeah. Well, we have to keep into consideration too, and I think this is something that we tend to forget about a little bit is sun angle here. So for me, 65 degrees can be a lot warmer almost because the sun is a little bit higher here. We're closer to the
hmm.
equator than you are there. So I look at it like this. And I mean, this is all because of how my weather is. When we are in the 40s at night, we're in the 60s to 70s during the day rather consistently. I don't think we'll have another 50-degree day until probably December.